Welcome back to the Top Notch Documentaries YouTube channel. In this episode of the Serial Bank series, I'm going over the Bandit dub, the Seasonal Bandit. The Bandit would later receive another nickname, the PT Cruiser Bandit, because he was seen driving a gold coloured one. I hope you enjoy. Over a 5-month time period from April to September in 2017, one serial bank robber would target banks in Southern California. Given the nickname the Seasoned Bandit because of his older age and silver hair, and then the PT Cruiser Bandit nicknamed by the FBI because of his distinct getaway car, the Bandit would be successful in his robberies. His MO included robbing banks like the vast majority of robbers, with a note. His notes were effective and to the point. His second bank robbery note read, $5,000, no signals, no dye, no packs, no GPS, no sensors, no eye contact. The Bandit would become much more confident with every robbery, his ability to successfully avoid arrest only emboldening him. The FBI were becoming concerned due to his much more consistent bank robberies. The Bandit's notes would mention that he had a handgun, and his consistency to hitting banks implied that he's becoming more desperate, and desperate people are dangerous people. All of the bank robberies held a similarity other than the Bandit's MO. Highway 126, which travels alongside the Santa Clara River just northwest of Los Angeles, served the Bandit well. The Bandit was familiar with the communities in which Highway 126 passed through and joined. Therefore, selecting banks for a quick escape onto Highway 126 would pay off for the Bandit on multiple occasions. However, the Bandit's use of Highway 126 would have law enforcement fixated on the 40-mile stretch of road, and they would place cameras along it. Highway 126 is known for having a high accident rate resulting in death, and the Bandit picking the highway to travel on would prove to be his eventual undoing. But this eventual undoing would be nothing when compared to the past life of the Bandit. He'd already experienced a curse that many never have to experience, the lottery curse. James Allen Hayes had a normal middle-class upbringing, residing in Camarillo, California, which is just 10 miles from Highway 126. Young James Hayes would spend his time at the beach, usually surfing. He met his partner in his late teens and they lived together for 15 years. In 1997 they broke off the relationship, partly because James went after a younger woman. The following year, and it was January 1998, James was going through depression and he'd been going through relationship problems. Unexpectedly, the year would transform for the better when James purchased a lottery ticket. He was staying with his grandmother at the time and was her caregiver. She woke him up to the news one day that everyone would love to hear. You've won the lottery. Just how much, you ask? Well, James had won $19 million. Well, not technically. He had $13 million after taxes, which is still an enormous amount, and he split the money with his then wife. Following this, he had approximately $6 million left, which again is still a good chunk. James would tell reporters that he was going to use the money to benefit his friends and family. He also stated the classic lottery winner line, "I'm not going to blow the money." I'm sure you can see where this story is heading. James spent the money, and by the money I mean all of the money. His newfound flashy lifestyle resembled an influencer's Instagram page, with exotic sports cars, huge homes, famous actors and actresses. James was not used to possessing money, clearly, and giving large sums of money to someone who has never been acquainted with it is a recipe for disaster. Still, it sounded like James was having an excellent time at first, lapsing up newfound attention from people around him. Showing off his car collection at car shows and mingling with celebrities garnered James' status that most could have only dreamed of. But James would wisely question his newfound friendships and networks. Do my friends like me, or just my cars or money, and the help I give them? Suffering from a previous work injury, James underwent back surgery and ended up hooked on prescription pills. The years passed as James became dependent on stronger pills. In 2007 he filed for bankruptcy, as his past years of flashy living concluded in high amounts of debt. The Californian lottery would soon prevent James from using the money, and everything just continued rolling downhill. It was now 2017 and James was living in an apartment complex in Ventura, where he would later rob a bank. It would soon be in January that a crazed apartment tenant ended up perpetrating arson, which in turn led to apartment residents being located elsewhere. James commented on the situation saying, "I personally evacuated all of the tenants. It was over 60 people, 2 dogs, 3 cats, and 1 very scared goldfish." James was the manager at the apartment complex, but the owner claimed that he was over-exaggerating his heroic claims. James ended up not being able to pay for prescription pills and ended up on heroin. He was living in his friend's garage and life had turned upside down for him. He looked for employment, but since he had no work history since 1998, the distant memory of the flashy lifestyle wasn't going to grant him a job anytime soon. He needed money to fund his further degrading substance addiction, and the idea soon came into his mind: bank robbery. He saw it as a victimless crime, and by this point, he was pretty resentful toward the world. James would begin his bank robbery spree in April of 2017 and would enhance his knowledge of bank robberies throughout this spree. He would enter banks at 5 PM as police shifts altered, and he only stayed in the bank for a few minutes. It got easier and easier every time, he would later say. I was completely hooked. I was getting off on it. It was like a game. The bank takings would go toward funding his heroin addiction and, of course, the vehicle that brought about his Bandit nickname. During a July robbery, the Bandit waited in a bank queue for 9 minutes before reaching the teller counter and handing over a banknote. In this note, he asked for $8,000, and the note informed the teller that the robber was armed. He left the bank with $5,000. The robber generally wore the same types of outfits for each robbery, some type of hat and shades, and a different coloured shirt for each robbery. The same routine of note robberies continued for months, and police were confident that they would soon nab the Bandit, who by this point had been caught on CCTV, both inside the banks and outside the banks, alongside a gold PT Cruiser. His PT Cruiser has actually been paid for using proceeds from his bank robberies. As mentioned, the Bandit's frequency of robberies had law enforcement concerned. If a teller wasn't to hand over the cash, the suspect may open fire. His notes had expressed his desire for money, and failure to receive it may lead to violence. Local media jumped on the story, and in late September, early October of 2017, police received a public tip, informing police on the suspect's identity. Police quickly responded by learning more about the suspect, James Allen Hayes. He drove the suspect car that CCTV had picked up and looked similar to the PT Cruiser Bandit. He was then taken into custody not long after. James was charged with 11 counts of robbery for 10 banks from April to September of 2017. He ended up taking a plea deal and pled guilty to 4 of the robberies. Made to cough up $39,424 in restitution for the full amount stolen, along with his PT Cruiser, James was given a 33-month sentence, just under 3 years. His lack of criminal record and his health concerns / older age was a concern for the judge, who knew that potential issues from other inmates might arise. For these reasons, he was spared a lengthy federal prison sentence, and his substance abuse issue may have credited some sympathy from the judge also. Was it worth it? The time given was short, but little was gained from the robberies in my opinion. Sure, James got a lenient sentence, but he's been made to pay back every dollar that he stole. Once he gets out of prison, he won't be able to find a normal job, and his chances of winning another jackpot are slim to none. Still, he's done it before, so who knows? Luck may forever be on his side. This has been another episode of the Serial Bank Robbers series. As always, thank you for watching.